Okay, welcome back from break. Now that you've played around with digitizing a little bit, are there any questions that you have? Anything you noticed or are wondering how to do for your own data?
I have a question.
Yep.
That was really helpful to know how to do for your own data, but I was looking on the slides and there was a link with other Rocky Mountain data, and one of the layers was trailheads. So how could we add that layer to this?
That's what we're doing next.
Okay, cool.
So wait 2 minutes. Awesome. Good question. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So before we get into the next part of searching for existing data like trailheads, which already exists, what I want to show you, if I can share my screen again, what I'd like to show you is how we can add attributes. So we were looking at how we can make a new polygon. So two things that we need to know how to do in order for editing to actually be useful. One is adding attributes, and two is fixing mistakes. Because if you're going to be tracing features and you mess up, you need to know what to do with them. So I'm at Sprague Lake right here, again, which is just along Bear Lake Road. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to scroll in a little bit. And I'm just going to digitize this parking lot. Again, I'm going to get creative because I can't really tell where it is. But let's say, oops, you make a big mistake and it looks like that. And that's no good. So if you need to fix something while it's selected, see how it's blue on the outline? That means it's selected. If I look in my table down below, if I can, I've made a few polygons, not that many, but this one here, number 3, I don't know why they're out of order, but this one here is highlighted in blue, and that's the one that's on the map. So what I can do is from my Edit tab, I have a whole bunch of tools in here.
Hey, Beth.
Yeah.
Can you show us how to clear a selection and select a feature if nothing is already selected?
Josh, I'm surprised you don't know how to do that already. Oh, I just hit the button without showing you what I hit. Darn it. Okay, hold on a second. If you make a feature, it will be selected automatically when you're done. But if you need to go back and select a completely different feature, there's the same button in 2 different places. On the Edit tab, there's a Select tool right here. So you can click the Select tool right here, and then literally just click on your feature, and it'll make it highlight again. If you, like, yeah, I could click on a stream, and then it would make the stream highlight. I want the parking lot highlighted. If you want to select an area and you can't really do it, you can also click and hold and drag a box, but then you might get more things than you want selected. So you can select with that tool, and you can also clear with this clear button right here. That'll get rid of everything. If you want to add attributes, or if you want to modify the shape of something, it pretty much always has to be selected in order to do that. So I can just click on my parking lot. And if I wanted to edit the vertices and reshape it, there are a couple ways I could do that. Right here from my Edit tab, I have a Tools window kind of in the middle here. I can click Edit Vertices. And now every vertex, why does it keep doing this? Every vertex shows up as a little green box. And where I started or finished, it shows up as a red box. So the red box is the last vertex I created, and all of the other vertices are these little green boxes all around. So if I wanted to reshape it, I could click on a vertex and move it over. So individually, you could move that, which could be tedious. If I wanted to add a new vertex, I could right-click and add a vertex, and then I would have a new point at which to modify the shape. Right-click, add a vertex, and then I could modify the shape. So you can modify the shape one vertex at a time if you have small changes to make. If you have a big change to make, I'm going to select that again. If you have a big change to make, there's a reshape option, and that actually lets you just trace a whole new section and then it'll put it in for you. So chances are you'll have to modify shapes at some point. The other thing is attributes. I have my attribute table open down here, but none of the polygons I made have any information. The whole point of the table is to store information to help you learn more about the features, to enable analysis, to enable better symbology. So we want to put something in here. So when you're creating a new feature, you can add your attributes right away with this little button up here, or if you have the table open, you can just directly type it into the table. So this is Sprague Lake. And I don't know what it is, but I'm going to make it up and say 9,000 feet. So you can just type it in there and then hit enter, and there you go. I'm going to zoom out and pan over to Bierstadt Lake. If I select Bierstadt Lake, I'll show you the attributes way. I can hit this little attributes button, and then I can type in the same information into here. How do you spell Bierstadt? Bierstadt Lake. And I'm just going to also say it's 9,000 feet because I don't know. And then hit apply. So you want to make sure when you're creating new features that you are actually filling in your attributes. Otherwise, it's not really very meaningful data. Any questions on modifying data or adding attributes or making selections? Okay. Once you have that done, what should you do at the end? Like, what should I do now that I've finished my editing?
Save.
Save. Yes, so I'm going to save my edits from the Edit tab. And I'm going to save my project. And then I cover all bases. Awesome. Okay, so I think it was Roberta that asked the question, why would we create all of our own trailheads? They exist somewhere. They are out there. Chances are that the data that you need to work with, maybe someone already made it. So in this next section, let me get rid of all these. In this next section, we're going to look at how we can actually go out and find data that other people may have posted somewhere online. So the simplest way to say that part here is just Google. I mean, like literally Google will get you very far in looking for data. So let's take a look. I'm going to open a new tab. And here I am in Google. And I'm just going to type in, what are we looking for? Trailheads for Rocky Mountain National Park. And then another good tip if you're looking for spatial data online is if you add the words like GIS data to it, because we don't want a recreational site with trailheads. We actually want the GIS data. And using the words GIS data or spatial data or the word shapefile or Esri data, something like that will help you get to the right place sooner. If you search on things like maps, the word map means something very different, and you might actually get PDF maps of someone else's map of trailheads, and that's not really what you want. So look for what you want and try to do GIS or GIS data in the search. And we'll see what we get. So this might be because I was already there the other day and Google remembered that, but the first option that I get is this Romo NPS Open Data arcgis.com page. You guys might not be getting that, but search for that now. Like if you change your search up here, if you change your search up top and look for Romo NPS Open Data, you'll get there. But this page right here, and let me, I'm going to copy this into the chat so you have it. Chat. I don't know where my chat went. I lost my chat. Here. Whoops. Sorry. Okay, to everyone. All right. So there's the link. If you have trouble searching for it, that's the link of where we are going right now. there. So this page is a web page set up through the Park Service, and there's one, presumably for every park in the country, and it's called an open data website. So the great people at the Park Service have gotten together and are making all of their GIS data available in a really easily searchable, downloadable format called this open data web page or open data site. So the company that makes ArcGIS Pro, if you look at the link here, it says ArcGIS. It's the same company. It's all through their servers, but they have this template basically where people can post data and share it. And no matter where you go, if it's Rocky Mountain National Park, or if it's the city of Fort Collins or Boulder County, all these web pages look the same, but they let you download their data. So if you're here, you can do a little search for trailheads. And there you go. So this is actually the trailhead, all the trailheads as points for Rocky Mountain National Park. So if you wanted to find out more about this, you could click on it. It would take you to the trailheads page. Am I moving too fast? I'm sorry. So I did a search for trailheads and I clicked on the result, and here it shows me a little picture, and it's actually interactive. I could zoom in with my scroll wheel. No, I can't. I can zoom in with the plus sign on the right, and I can see all the points. So it's giving me a picture of the data. And if I scroll down, these are all the attributes that each point has stored for it in the table. So all this information, a lot of which we wouldn't need. Unit name, unit code, name, alt name, POI name. One of these is the trailhead name, I'm sure. Unit name like Long's Peak or Front Range or whatever. So all of these things are in there, so you can take a look what type of information is in this layer before I download it. If I go back up here, I can actually click on the data tab, and here I can see the table. So this is what the attribute table would actually look like. So you can get a very accurate picture of what is in this data set before downloading it. Then if you decide, yes, this is what I need, I want this data, I want to put it in my map, then you have two choices. From these open data websites, open data web pages, you can click up here, there's a button that says download, and you can download this data to your local machine and then add it into the map just like you did with all of these other layers. So you could download it as a shapefile, download it as a thing called a file geodatabase, download it as a KML, and then you could also bring it very easily into Google Earth or Google Maps, or just get a spreadsheet where all you have is the attributes and not the points. So you could choose how you want to download it, whatever format you pick, put it into the correct folder, you'll see it in here, and then you could bring it in to your map. So that's one way to do it. If you wanted to be able to work offline, if you wanted to be able to potentially manipulate or edit the data, you would want to download it and then have full control over it. If you don't need full control over it, then the second option is right here. These data sets are all available through what's called a web service or a web mapping service. Sometimes you'll hear the term REST service, and that's just the protocol for how they're shared from the web. Don't worry about all that stuff. But basically, there's a way to share it through a URL. So they post it publicly through a server, and you can get it through a URL. So you can add it to your map in ArcGIS Pro or in their online system, and you can add it to a map like you're streaming music from Spotify, you're streaming data from the National Park Service. If you do it that way, then you're more limited in the functionality that you can do with it. For example, if you bring it in, you could probably change the symbology, but you wouldn't be able to make any edits. If you saw a typo, you wouldn't be able to fix it. You wouldn't be able to add any of your own trailheads. Let's say data was missing and you wanted to add your own, you wouldn't be able to do that. But you could bring it in, change symbology, have it in your map, and even use it in analysis. So in order to get these, there's a couple ways to do that. And I'm going to show you one way from ArcGIS Pro, and I'll show you a second way. When we get to ArcGIS Online, you can get to it from there as well. Okay, so this is really cool. This website itself is really cool. Having all this Rocky Mountain data just right at our fingertips is amazing. Let's take a look at another great source for data. Since we are in Fort Collins, I don't know how much work you do right here in town, but if you just do a Google search for Fort Collins GIS data, straight up just like that, just do a search for Fort Collins GIS data, and you'll see the city of Fort Collins also has a whole bunch of great stuff, including down here, yet another open data webpage. So I'm going to click on that, and I will put the link into the chat in case you can't find it. So you have it. But when you get to the City of Fort Collins Open Data webpage, you can see it looks the same as the Rocky Mountain one, different colors, but you can go and again search for data. So you tell me, or you just search on your own, what data should we search for? Feel free to unmute or put it into the chat. How about floodplains? That's exciting, right? So I just typed in floodplains, and there's all these different floodplains. There's two different floodplains. But again, you can click on it, and it's the same template. It's different data, different organization, but it's all through this Esri template. So again, I can see my attributes. I can see related data sets. I can download it in whatever format I want, or get the URL to bring it in as a streaming layer. So when you look for GIS data, a lot of times you'll see it in some type of format like this. In contrast, let's look at one more. If I can, I don't know how to make that go away. We'll look at one more, City of Loveland. If you just do a Google search for City of Loveland GIS data, the City of Loveland has all of their downloadable data just as a list of links. So I did a Google search for City of Loveland GIS data. On the left, they have this little menu so you can get to their data downloads. And then they literally just have a list of zip files. So you can download each one as a zip file of the shape file of that layer. So you can see that data to search for on the web comes in a lot of different formats. Natural areas. You can look for natural areas. I left the web page. I didn't see your thing in time, sorry. And then let's look at one more for, so if you're working with data maybe nationally, there's a whole lot of websites out there for statewide data through different statewide agencies and CDOT and DOLA, what's DOLA? Department of Labor or something. But through, let's do another web search. Let's do a search for Nrcs Data Gateway. And this is a federal website through the Nrcs, which is through the USDA. But the Nrcs Data Gateway has a ton of data, and you can get data for anywhere in the whole country, and it's by county usually. So Nrcs Data Gateway, you can search for this. And then on the right, once you get to this web page, as prominent as it seems like it should be, it's actually kind of hidden. It's this green button on the right here, Get Data. But this lets you look for data for any state, Colorado, for any county, Larimer, and you click the button to make it go, and then you hit submit. So pick your state, pick your county, hit submit. And then you get the list of all the data they have available for that county. And it's pretty much the same for every county in the country. but you have census data, climate data, soil data, conservation easements, elevation, municipal boundaries, hydrology data, land use, land cover data, roads and stuff, tons of different data. So there's a lot of data out there that you can find and download. And all of the ways that I just showed you are ways to download data. Now let's go into ArcGIS Pro. And what if you just need a little bit of data to show on your map, but you don't really want to have to download it? You don't want to have to deal with that. Let's go back into Pro. And before we start, are there any questions? Excuse me. Okay. So I'm going to close my table here at the bottom, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to turn off my lame trailheads that I created. And we're going to take a look at how we can find the real trailheads from Rocky Mountain. And I'm going to save my project just for good measure. Okay. So we should all have a catalog panel on the right. If you don't have a catalog panel on the right, remember you can go to View, Catalog Pane, turn that back on. In the catalog panel on the right now we're looking at what's called the Project tab, which is really just our folders. But there's also the middle tab here called Portal. Portal allows us to actually go out and search the internet, search the ArcGIS Online cloud, search the ArcGIS Online system for data. So there are 4 little buttons here. We want to work with the 2 on the right. This one, which is just a cloud, will search all of ArcGIS Online for whatever it is we're looking for. And the one on the far right is called the Living Atlas. So ArcGIS Online is an online mapping platform. It lets people create web maps, and it lets you post data and put your own data in there and look for other people's data and make web maps and make story maps and even do some analysis. Anyone can put stuff into ArcGIS Online. My 10-year-old could put stuff into ArcGIS Online. I'm pretty sure if you were doing a research project, you wouldn't want my 10-year-old's data. So all of Portal, you have to be really careful because you don't know the quality or maybe where the data are coming from. The Living Atlas on the right is curated, authoritative, vetted data, and so it's a little bit more reliable and trustworthy. So I'm going to do a search of the Living Atlas. And then let's just take a look and see if we can find Rocky Mountain National Park trailheads. I don't know if this will work. Okay, so it didn't work. So let's do the same search thing from all of Portal. And I just copied and pasted. So we're going to search all of Portal for the same thing. And we get some things. So I think what this means is that the Rocky Mountain National Park GIS admin, when they posted it, it just wasn't like verified or whatever, so it didn't show up in the Living Atlas, but it's there. But if we take a look and we actually hover our mouse over the results, we can see, like this top one here, look at who made it. It's a feature layer owned by IMRGIS, and there is the whole link. I'm not going to, but if we went back to that original Open Data website, we would see that this is actually the same layer. So this is the same layer that we found online that we could have downloaded from that other web page, but now we can get to it directly from Pro. And all I have to do is right click and say add it to the map. If you're not excited, then you're not paying attention. I think this is really cool. This is really cool because 10 years ago, this was not an option. If you wanted data from someone else, you had to download it and then store it yourself and then update it, re-download it if it got updated. So this is really amazing how easy it is to get these data sets. So I did that. I right-clicked and added it to the map, and it shows up somewhere here. So if I turn it on, it already gives me symbology. and I can see my little trailhead icon right there. If I zoom out, I can see all the little trailhead icons throughout the park. And these data are great because I don't have to download it. I don't have to maintain it. I didn't even have to pick my own symbol. It came with the symbol. And then if I just need it to be in my map, it's really easy to work with. Okay. What other layers do you think you might want to look for? Not necessarily Rocky Mountain National Park, but just in general for your own data. No ideas yet? That's okay. Over the next couple of days, in the next hour, and then on Wednesday, hopefully you'll get a better idea of what is possible and what data layers might exist out there that you might want to use. Okay. So now what we're going to do is, let's say we needed to take our map and share it with other people on the web. That's kind of the last thing we're going to cover today, and there's quite a bit to it. It's easy to do, but there's a lot of little details in there. So let's hop over to there, and we'll take a look. If I can find my slides. Here. All right, so we just looked at this. We searched for data through just a regular web browser, and we searched for data through the Arcgis Online portal through Pro. There's also a way to get to all of that data through Arcgis Online. We'll get to that in just a moment. This slide here should have been earlier. Just don't forget that we have attributes for all of our data. So if we're creating data in vector format, we want to add all those attributes, and every piece of information needs a column in the table. And Roberta, you had a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, is there a way where, say we added the trailheads, and then could we have the name of the trailhead also show up on the map?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let me hop back over into Pro. Whether the data is your own or if it's coming from Arcgis Online like it is right now, if you look at the table, any of the information in the table here can be added as text to the map in what's called a label. So we do have a POI name, which is what we would probably want to use for our label. So I'm going to close the table. Now that I've inspected the data and I know what's in there, I don't need it anymore. So what I can do is right click on my layer, and notice down here there's a label option. If you just quickly turn on labels, it will pick a field in the table to label by, and it will also pick a font color. Clearly this font color is not really working, but if I go up to way up top where I have all my tabs, over here, I have a labeling tab. So with that layer selected and highlighted in blue in the contents, you can go up to labeling. And under this labeling tab, you can change the properties of your label. So you can change what column in the table the text is coming from. We don't want to change that because it's actually correct. But then we can also change things like the style. We could make it, we could pick a point of interest with a halo. So we can make it white text with a halo. And now they're more readable. So you can turn on labels, and then from the labeling tab, modify and configure your labels to make them more readable. I have labels already coming from the base map. So here I have Bear Lake next to Bear Lake, so it gets a little bit wonky, so you might want to play around with that. The other thing to notice about labels is if you zoom in, the labels will actually move around a little bit. They're not fixed in place. There is a way to make them fixed in place, but we're not going to do that right now. Oh yeah, but that's how you would label. Does that answer your question?
Good. Yep. All good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Great. Any other questions? I think the more we do with this and the more comfortable we get, your wheels will start turning and you'll get some additional questions. So I think Wednesday maybe we'll have more questions. All right, let's go back to the slides. Talk a little bit about attributes. All right, and then the last